Welcome to the Real Chat Podcast,
where we talk business, lifestyle, and mindset.
For the modern entrepreneur.
I'm Baxter Colburn.
I'm Allison Elise.
I'm Mandi Wilkie. Let's chat. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to season 2 of the Real Chat Podcast. We have our first guest of the season. Former Mayor Jim Schmitt is here with us today. I confirmed this with him a minute ago. 41st mayor.
Right.
16-year term.
Right.
The longest term in the history of Green Bay.
Right.
Still very active in the community, very passionate about helping the homeless population.
Oh, yeah.
But one of the reasons why we had you on here is because you recently had me on your morning radio show.
Right.
And I had no idea the passion you had for entrepreneurship. And I think part of the reason why you guys asked me to be on the show is because of the podcast. And then when we got to chatting, I found out you're also teaching entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. So
cool.
We
That's
want to
awesome.
hear a little bit about that. And I know that before you were a mayor, you were a business owner.
Right.
Can you tell us what business you owned?
Yeah, and sometimes it's weird because people think all I did was the mayor, which was a big part of my life. I mean, 16
That
years.
tiny little stint of 16 years.
Well, no, but before that, I ran a business, and I remember when I loved the city, and I always liked politics, even 8th grade president high school and at St. Norbert, and so I knew I was going to do that someday, and I think I'm going to run for mayor. My dad said, "Why would you do that? You got a good business going. People
Yeah.
respect you, and not that they don't when you're mayor, but I mean, it's just there's more politics obviously in that. But I think, like I would encourage any entrepreneur, do where your heart's at. So, excuse me. So I ran. The business I had though was pretty interesting. Here in Green Bay, in our community, there's a lot of paper and a lot of paper converting. So we would buy truckloads of paper, and a lot of people make it into things, Some people make it into like capes, gowns, drape sheets for the medical industry. Other people make napkins. A lot of people make toilet paper.
Some people make magazines.
Some people make magazines. It's different kind of paper, but it's some people make magazines. So I worked at a company that made disposable medical products out of paper. They made table rolls out of paper, coffee filters out of paper.
It's gotta
And
come from
I worked
somewhere.
for them, and I loved that company. I really enjoyed it. I started in marketing, and I was their regional sales manager. I lived in Chicago, and then I was their West Coast sales manager and lived in Southern California for, I think it was 8 years I was out there. And they called and they said, "Hey, look, we want you to move back to Green Bay." And I'm like, I don't know. It's nice out there.
From California.
Yeah, that's a big ask.
72 degrees like every day.
Yeah.
And I just remember as a little kid, always, pray for good weather for this. It's always good weather out there.
Right?
But I came back here and they wanted me to get a new division started, disposable beauty and barber products. So that would be like end papers, neck strips, blotting towels, that kind of
Sure.
stuff. It's a niche.
Okay.
It's $10 million. It's not a huge industry. So, okay. So I moved back here. And then, they had some changes in their management, and the new manager came in. He goes, "That's too small of an industry for us. We got to get back to the medical." And I'm like, "What are you, nuts?" I said, and I wrote a business plan, and I was in grad school, and it was a really good, it was a really good business plan. And they said, "Look, we don't like this." And then, look, I was a little younger then, and I maybe wasn't as respectful as I should have been. But anyway, I ended up getting let go because they're like, "Look, this isn't going to work." Because I couldn't.
You haven't done anything until you've been fired.
Okay,
Correct.
good. I did something, but I couldn't accept the fact that my business wasn't going to be supported.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I went and worked for KI, which was great. I loved working there in Cellcom. But I kept the business plan, and I'd been looking for some equipment, and a guy called me and said, "Hey, look, you still looking for those interfolding machines?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he says, "There's 2 of them down in Quincy, Illinois." Went down there, looked at them, I bought them, and I moved them to the incubator. And incubators are good things. I mean, they take a lot of risk out of your business, right? I mean, you can grow. And so I rented a space there and got some tissue and started making neck strips and paper towels. And and every year we added more products, and it was a nice little company. I mean, it was a few $1 million in sales, very profitable. And then this whole mayor's thing came up, and it's like, okay, what are you going to do? You can run a business. There's nothing against being in politics and having a business. There's people who do. but the business really needs you if you're not making money. That's
Right.
when and that's all you think about then.
100%.
You were a hands-on owner in
just
the business.
a little, yeah. I mean, but we had a lot of great employees and working there. So a friend of mine's like, hey, look, you sell this business, and you really sell your business to competitors. That's in that industry, they just absorb you.
Gotcha.
And it becomes, and they get you out of their hair too.
Yep.
So anyway, we were purchased by the company that let me go.
Irony is a great thing, isn't it?
It is.
That's
Oh, my goodness.
amazing.
So yeah.
So you've always had a heart for entrepreneurship.
Oh yeah, I love it. I mean, even when I was, we talk about, Johnny and I were talking about this one time, just 6th grade, when you had the bug collections and you put the sawdust and the plaster of Paris and the Ephemel into a mayonnaise jar to kill the bugs so you wouldn't smash it, right? So you could just pin it on your display. I
Science project.
Right, but I made those jars. You had to make it at home, but I made them and sold them. And that was for like 25 cents. But I had no cost. My parents gave me all this stuff to do it.
Right.
Yeah, I just, and I don't know. I would go to auctions, household auctions, and at the end they just sell boxes of stuff for $1.
Yeah.
I'd be on my bike because I was 14, and I'd buy the box and open it up, and there'd be purses or some stuff in there, and I would go and just sell off the parts, and it wouldn't take much to make up $1.
Before Facebook Marketplace.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
Mayor's Marketplace.
there was none of that. Oh my God. But I really had a passion for politics, and I think Green Bay. I wanted to be the mayor, and I think Green Bay needed someone like me at that time, and so it worked out.
Well, in theory, as the mayor too, you're also supporting any new business that's coming into the community, which a lot of it is entrepreneurship, right?
So,
that's part of your role as
my
mayor,
God,
is to ribbon cut.
Yeah.
But that's
Smile.
Right.
Yeah.
There, shake hands. Right.
But people ask me all the time, what's the favorite part of your job? And look, it's public knowledge what you do, but I did like 500 events a year.
That is insane.
But a lot of it's Eagle Scouts,
thought
100-year
you were a
birthday
busy man.
parties,
Yeah.
meetings. But by far, people always ask me, what was the favorite thing? It was ribbon cuttings. I loved it.
That's awesome.
Well, there's so much excitement around it, right?
There's a lot of excitement around it, but I think I know what goes into it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, these people are cleaning the bathroom before we get there. Sometimes, sometimes for the ribbon cutting, the paint's still wet.
Yeah.
It's hard to pull it together.
100%,
And
yeah.
then, I always said to the people who gathered, and we had nice gatherings for ribbon cuttings. But it's like we're here celebrating, but we got to support this business. With a small business, be it just a little hamburger place or some, another $200 a day can make a difference to them
Absolutely.
because
difference.
the cost is there. The employee's going to be there.
Yep.
Yep.
You got a little bit of a variable cost, but at the end of the day, we need to support those businesses. So, and I had this steadfast rule. I never bought anything outside the city of Green Bay. And
Wow.
people are like, okay, give me a break. But you know what? The reason I did that, because I remember they had Noodles and Company
Yep.
on Oneida Street in Ashwaubenon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said to my kids, no more Noodles and Company, you guys. But then we opened one up in Green Bay on the east side. So they were very
There you
happy
go.
about
There you go.
that. And a smart cow. So we were good. We could do that. The reason I wasn't like, but if somebody would see you, a small business,
Yeah.
eating, were you driving? If you're out of the state, that's totally different. But I don't know. I just felt like I don't want to be. I just really support small businesses,
Yeah.
and I know that they supported me, and so I tried to spend my money here. It's a little different now.
Right.
Some people don't even know where Green Bay ends and Pier begins, and
There's
yeah.
there's a lot of people that know because you have the city of Green Bay, and then you have 7 other municipalities that call themselves Green Bay, even
Right.
though they're hard, and they have really nothing to do with Green Bay. They have different zoning laws, different school district,
Yep.
and that was confusing. Then some people were great, and they'd go to vote for me. And they're like, you can't vote. You live in Alloway.
Yeah.
And they'd call
I'll
me and
take
start raising Cain about it. I'm like, hey, look, you live in Alloway. You
There's
can't
houses
do that.
for sale on the east side.
Yes,
Exactly.
right.
Come on
right.
over.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was great. And I think the reason that happens is I do think, Green Bay kind of sets the tone.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I think if I do think that we're pretty much the heart of the community. And Green Bay's got to be successful, and I think that helps everybody.
It's on the map,
Right.
as Green Bay,
It
right?
is,
Like
yeah.
at the end
So
of the day.
yeah, and you want
So I could ask you a billion questions, but I want them to also participate and ask the questions. But I have so many questions about teaching. But go
My
ahead.
question was going to be, what was your favorite part about being the mayor?
ribbon cuttings.
Chat,
But it's so cool
podcast
because
is
I
now
just
over.
attended one yesterday, and it was so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially
And that was
because
a 5-year anniversary, right?
yeah, and I had been working with her since she wasn't even a business.
Right.
So for the past 5 years, I've watched her literally grow through my photography, and
Yep.
it's just really cool because being
Yeah.
business to business, that's one of my favorite things to support small business owners too.
Yeah.
But
Being
one
an
of-
entrepreneur.
Yeah, one of the things she said at the ribbon cutting was, we literally were scurrying around getting the second story of the business ready to do the ribbon cutting, which is part of the reason why people don't do the first ribbon cutting.
Exactly.
So,
But you
know,
should.
You
You-
yeah,
absolutely
You
absolutely
should.
And you get some pictures. I remember we did our ribbon cutting at the company I had, and I just can't believe how little those kids were. But it's it's
Forever a memory.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
See, I've been to a couple of ribbon cuttings for the work that I do, and Allie and I, our jobs are to document people's stories, right?
yeah.
Photos and videos, and it's so amazing to see when somebody, not that they don't care about their business, but when someone is really passionate about what they are doing, right? They're like, this isn't just another thing. Like, I have put so much time and effort and tears and everything into this, right? And to see that relief of like when they clip and then that smile and that excitement of like, oh my gosh, we did it, right? Like,
Because there's
that-
usually
That
some
moment.
emotion
Yeah,
going into
correct.
that,
Oh,
right?
that's
Like
fun.
the
Yeah.
pain and
they get
sweat.
very choked up for that.
100%, yeah. It makes a difference.
When
It's
you cut the
exciting.
ribbon, it's a new day.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because you got to keep it going. I mean, nobody goes
Exactly
in with
right.
everything paid for and
Absolutely.
built-in customers.
Yeah.
You really have got to work hard. But I think, I talked a lot in high schools and colleges, and I really wanted me to talk about political science, but I always got into the business side of things. I just think you should do what you want to do. I mean, there's so much support out there for, like I said, we were in the incubator, which helped us get started. There's some money out there. Not as much as there should be, but there's some startup money for people. But guest speaking, teaching is totally different than going around and giving, 10 talks a year
Yeah,
in
yeah.
business, because the arc of teaching is, it's hard. I mean, it's
Correct.
a syllabus. It's kids, grandmas still die, and the same excuses we used back then, they're used today. But I'm really pretty big on attendance, and it's like, if you miss a few classes, you're probably better off dropping the class, because I think you need to learn. You need to discuss this with other classmates. So
Go ahead.
I was going to ask, just out of curiosity, from a teaching perspective, where do you fall, obviously, from an academic perspective, about even applying more entrepreneurship and more business-minded focused classes to like the high school area, right, or the high school range? Because I feel like college is like, oh, once I get to college, I'll be a business major, I'll do this, right? But half the time, I didn't go to college for what I do as a business now. I don't think Allie did. I don't think
A
Mandi
lot of
did,
people
right? Like,
didn't.
and that's so like,
I don't.
if high school is maybe the last chance to catch some of these people on the way up before they maybe completely change their mind, is that something that maybe we could see more of at one point?
Well, I think so. If you look at the technical college at NWTC, I mean, that's a great opportunity for people. It's not a lot of cost. Sometimes you look at the cost of some of these things, and one of the classes I teach is just business fundamentals, and it's pretty basic. But then I read their papers. I think they're into it. What you write about an entrepreneur, and everybody they all look at Steve Jobs, and they look at Bill Gates. It's like they're right here in our
Correct.
community. We don't
Yep.
need to study Starbucks.
Yeah.
We can study Schneider. We can study
Yep.
Schreiber. We can study you
And-
guys.
yeah.
I mean, there's just a lot that we can do here. I start with the bigger umbrella of socialism versus capitalism. Some youth think socialism, and I guess there's some advantages to that. I mean, we're a capitalist economy here, and it seems to be working. But people do fall through the cracks, and that is the
absolutely.
problem with capitalism. But it allows creativity, which is, I think, we're all have that innately in us. But if you would get into a socialist government or a company that's like, look, just keep your nose down, that's not fun. I mean, you need to look around and find a new idea. So, but which is what entrepreneurship is.
Correct.
And taking risks. I got to remind them of that. You guys, it's because I all think. Some of these, not that they all think, but some of them think, you're in business, you're making money.
Yeah. I'd like
be
to
great.
talk to that
Yeah,
class.
where-
But that's why I like having people like you in to talk about it, because it's it's great. It's rewarding. I mean, I loved it, even though, we had some couple tough years getting started, but, then it started to click and, anyway.
It ebbs and flows, right?
Yeah, it does.
It's interesting, the comment you made about requiring the attendance. Because the advice I would give to an entrepreneur, a future entrepreneur, or myself 10 years ago is I almost said a bad word.
Yeah.
You better show up.
You better show up.
That's
I was
right.
like,
You
I was
better-
going to take
Because
the
if you're not going to show up,
Yeah,
you're not
your
going to.
employees, it's the example.
We had to
and-
beep that word out,
Yeah.
but I was like, you better flip and show up.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Absolutely.
if you can't show up for a class, you probably shouldn't start your own business.
Right.
And that's a good
It's
way
a
to look at
maturity
it.
issue at
Yeah,
times
it
too,
is.
right? Very rarely does a 21-year-old be like, I'm driven, I'm doing all the things, and I'm going to start a business. And yes, it has happened, but very rarely, like, I didn't start my business until 3 years ago, right? So 30 years old, lived a whole different life previous to all of this, and then I was like, you know what? Now I feel way more
Now I
in
wanna be
control
an
of who
adult.
I am.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
it is though. It's
Yeah,
true.
it's adulting.
It felt like
Yeah.
I was ready to grow up.
I
and
was
I've been able to
31,
do
and I
that.
think that's good. You got some, as they say, some cred, right?
Yeah.
You've been working, you got a couple bucks in the bank, but you also, earned. You're somewhere, and whether it was at KI or is at some company, but you're ready to go on your own. I think banks appreciate that, and banks have told me, and I think it's really, really true, is that they'll read your business plan, but they really lend it to you.
Yeah, they
Yes.
invest in people,
Correct.
not
They really
the
do.
plan.
Even big banks, they're just
Right,
like,
yeah.
look, because one bank I was talking to, and I could tell he didn't read my business plan. Just by the questions he was asking. I'm like, that was in bold print.
Yeah.
Paragraph 4, section
there
D.
for you. Yeah.
You really couldn't have missed that. That was like on the
One.
second page.
Yeah.
But I got the money, but they just really, it's like, tell me more about yourself.
Yeah.
And then. But but you still got to write a business plan, and we do that in class.
That's interesting because I didn't write a business
I
plan.
don't.
Well, we talked a little bit about this on the radio show. There's two types of entrepreneurs. There's ones that follow a plan that has been done before, and then ones that do something on their own completely, like
On their own
Baxter.
Correct.
terms.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I have a franchise, so I'm
Yeah,
an
that's a
independent
little
contractor in
different.
entrepreneurship, or entrepreneur. But there's a plan.
Mm-hmm.
Baxter didn't have a plan before him. Allie didn't have a plan before her.
A lot of it is what you do, though, right? Allie and I work in an industry in the creative world where there's like general, like you can kind of stay in this area,
But you have to be
so
creative to
much-
grow.
Correct,
Right?
exactly.
You can't be the same
We're
as
not
everybody
going to
else.
meetings every week and getting someone or having entrepreneurs or other people coming to us and saying, "Oh yeah, this is the 5-step process," because we can try
Right.
the same 5 steps, and I might go here and she might go over there, right? Like it's completely different
Right.
in those worlds sometimes.
But I think every business should have a plan.
Yes.
And you got to.
So we all need to sign up for that class. Is there a summer?
You'd be much more advanced. That class is fundamentals. It's very basic. But the students all do a project as a group, and they don't make their groups. I assign them because part of business is working with people you don't know.
Yeah,
Sometimes
absolutely.
people you don't like.
Yep.
Yeah.
Correct.
And then
So-
learning how to do the work and get it done.
And
And
make
deal
sure,
with people you don't like.
well,
Yeah.
and make sure that you're all doing, 20. If there's 4 of you, that you're all doing 25%.
Yes.
Because, and so they learn that. Then they'll call. So and so's not doing anything. I said, well, go talk to them.
Yeah.
Like I'm not a parent, right? I mean,
Correct.
that's
Yeah.
in business.
It's
You
not
got
your
to
job
go
to do
talk to
that,
them and say,
yeah.
hey, look, I think you could be doing more.
phone call.
And
Correct.
sometimes people are like, really? It's like, yeah, you could be doing a lot more. So. Anyway, the project that they do in tandem with the curriculum is a food truck. So they
awesome.
pick the project. And let's talk about creativity. Some of these kids come up with great things, and I always get a kick out of them. That what we're going to do is we're going to do the whole farm to table and all the fresh stuff. And I'm like, okay. But
What if it's a bad crop season?
well,
or,
or the longest line is usually the cheese curds, or the
Right?
fun. But,
It's true.
But on the other hand, there's some really desserts they come up with, and I said, when you go to a food truck rally, why did you go to that truck? So we'll go down to the farmers market. When classes,
Field
in
trip.
fall, field
Heck yeah,
trip,
let's go.
and then we go back and why did you go to that truck? Was it? And really, that's kind of a little bit the advertising,
Yeah.
the marketing, and then what did you buy? And then did they upsell you? And did they sell you a water too? And
Yep.
we wouldn't let them drink, but beer. But so yeah, that's it. Pizza's number one, fast food. So that we go to, and that's but it's not just pizza, right? It's that baked, whatever that is, that stone
Wood
oven.
fire,
Yeah,
yeah.
The wood fire. Yeah.
Pizzeria.
Yeah, he's got a cool thing going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
there. And
Rustic pizza.
Yeah.
Rustique.
Yeah.
Say rustique, and then anything that has to do with desserts, I've noticed too, right? Like
Say-
the ice cream trucks, the,
Right.
the dough
Legendary.
shop. Yeah,
How about
The
that?
cookie dough.
legendary
dough
ice
one.
cream truck with the
Yeah.
cookies.
Yeah,
it's so aesthetic. It's so eye-catching.
Right.
It's Instagrammable. You live in a world where everybody wants to take a photo and say, "I was here at the farmer's market and
Right.
I indulged in
Look
this."
at what I
Yes.
got.
Like,
yeah.
Yes.
There's a whole like mindset.
Happy,
to it.
sunny, bright.
Yeah.
It's good.
the lady with the cookie dough truck, she
dough
came and
shop.
spoke at one of my classes
Yeah.
a couple of years
Yeah.
ago.
Cool.
But
Like her number, she's phenomenal.
Yeah.
She's the best. I love that.
Yeah.
yeah,
place.
Yeah.
So, and those basic principles, you know, you have to do finance, right? I mean,
Yeah.
sales, you know, expenses, and we don't. And sometimes they come up with these sales numbers. I'm like, what? I mean, you have to break it down by the hour, and then you got number of employees.
Yeah.
and-
Well, then you've got your food in
Yeah.
a product that there's dairy based. It's not going to, it doesn't have a long
we talk
shelf
about
life.
spoilage. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's the finance. Of course, the truck costs money too, and I just let them amortize it over 10 years. I don't know if that's really how they would do that, but at least they have a fixed payment. And
Correct.
And when you talk about fixed costs, there's stuff you got to spend even if the truck is in the garage. You know,
Correct.
I mean,
Right.
they're not going to let you go on insurance. They're not going to let you go on rent. They're not going to let you go on the payment of your
Yep.
truck, and you know some other stuff. So we talk about how can we be active in the winter months here.
Yeah.
You know, and there's people that go up to. I'm not a big. I like the outdoors, but there's all this fishing, like ice,
Yeah,
and
the tournaments up
snowmobile, and
there,
all
yeah.
that. So you can go up there and put a food truck there and make a little cash to get you through the winter months. But you got to make hay when the sun shines in Green Bay.
It's
so,
true.
So they go through that. They go through the marketing. HR.
Yep.
HR has changed quite a bit, but that's really. You know, interviewing skills and getting the right people, but they really have to know sexual harassment you cannot tolerate.
Correct,
You know?
yeah.
And so we talk about what happens when that comes in your company. Then they put together this business plan, and they got to present it in front of the class, which is good for them to do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you think the majority of the students that are taking the class go into a level of entrepreneurship? Or are they taking it to check a box? I mean, are they really interested in becoming an entrepreneur?
Yeah, we have both. I mean, there's
Yeah.
people that check a box. I mean, it's not the hardest
Yeah.
class. I mean, it's fundamentals of business. But I was a little surprised when I first started. I was like, wow, you don't know this? I mean, maybe I learned more in high school about it, but I was like, you should know this. But you know, I had to throttle back too a little bit, right? I mean,
Yep.
you got to teach to the audience. So. You know, some people they'll write a business plan or they're thinking of doing something. I say, man, you got to do that. You know,
Yeah.
but you got to. But think about 4 P's of marketing and think about your finance and where you're going to get your money. And and you start off with money. The first year isn't. I don't want to say nothing's easy in business, but the first year can be not as difficult because you have a pile of money that you borrowed, but that second year, and that money's kind of gone, and you don't have the sales. And I thought sales were going to be more than this. So at the bank. So
Right.
But I think there are some people now they'll drill down like on the accounting. We don't get into like cost accounting, or we don't. So they got to take more classes if they're going to do that. And then there's true entrepreneurial support programs at GB and at TC. So, but I like it. I like teaching it. I don't need a lot of notes. The syllabus is like, this is what we're going to do today. And I go through some PowerPoints and that, but at the end of the day, it's a lot of my experience and what works and what you got to do. It's the real world. And even when they got hired, I said, what do I got to do to teach here? And they're like, oh, just tell us you want to, because they have a good curriculum and they have a good syllabus and they have a pretty good textbook, but you got to deliver that.
Right.
Yep.
And like you guys all have the personalities to deliver that, and the kids need to relate. You got to deliver it. You read it or they read a book. It's like, it's kind of boring. I'm like, no, this isn't boring. This is pretty fun stuff. So anyway, but it's the delivery. And that's, and they said, look, the guy, he goes, look, you can do this. So I
Right.
think I can. So that was it. I mean, I didn't like interview or anything. It was just, you have to have a couple of credentials. But anyway, but I enjoy that. And I really believe in the entrepreneurship. I know there's all these big companies. You read about that. But at the end of the day, the entrepreneurs are what makes it work. And
Absolutely.
they're pretty low. It takes businesses to contribute to the nonprofits, right? We have a lot of nonprofits in this community, and they all need money. And a lot of it comes from individuals, but a lot of it comes from businesses. So, and I talk to them. We talk about profit and philanthropy, and it's in that order. But I just told them, and some of them come in. I work at the homeless shelter. We have a group coming in from one of my class. In my class, I was like was that last year's class? And they're still coming in. They serve like once a quarter.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But they need to do that too. I told them that. Look, you guys, this isn't.
Well, part of being an entrepreneur is giving back.
Totally.
Yeah.
You're expected to give back.
Yep.
So I'm not sure why.
But you
it
don't have
seems,
to.
But you don't have to.
You don't have to. And that's the
Yep.
key. But if you do, you don't want to be selfish about it, but it will help your sales. I mean, I much
100%.
prefer to do business with people that I know.
Or doing business in the community and helping the
Right.
community. Yeah. And we have a couple minutes left, but how long have you been teaching?
2 years, 2.5 years.
So not like long enough where you've had anybody maybe come back to you and say, oh my gosh, this
Yeah.
really impacted me and here's what I took
Yeah.
and implemented.
Here's what I implemented, and here's the $500,000 I want to give to the homeless shelter.
Oh, I love that.
I'm
No,
waiting.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
I'm
just
waiting
in
for
case,
that day.
if you
They
ever
know
took,
but I keep in touch with the ones that, you're going to be pretty successful. And
Yeah.
there really are some, not that you can judge it right away, but there's some kids that I would bet on more than others. I bet on all of them.
What is it that stands out? Is there like a trait or something that you like, that guy or that girl?
They work really hard.
Yeah.
They do. Their papers are good.
Okay.
They ask questions. They're like, what do you mean by that? And pretty confident.
Okay.
Kind of a little, even though it's a group of 4 or 5, they kind of become a little bit of a leader. Okay, you do this. Can you do this? And
Yep.
they ask. And there's a few kids that I was talking to this one guy. Actually, he was at the homeless shelter, and we're walking down the hall. I said, "Look, you're going to be flying private someday." He goes, "Yeah, probably." Confident.
Confidence.
Yeah.
Right? Fake it till you make it.
Yeah. But anyway, and this is a good community. I mean, it's very supportive. There's a lot of small businesses here that, it's tough, and the chances of being successful the odds aren't on your side. But, if you can ask the right questions, get the right support, and, don't deny anything. I mean, if you had a bad month, you had a bad month.
Yeah.
Right.
Move on.
Wake
Right.
up the next day and the
Right.
sun still comes up,
Right.
right?
Yep. 100%.
So real quick, while we wrap up,
Yes.
remind everybody that's listening where they can hear from you on the radio.
Oh,
There's a couple
yes.
places.
But that was a
So-
fun thing. I'll just tell you that quickly. So I was at home, and it was a Saturday, and I got this phone call and asked questions. Oh, what do I think about homeless? Well, I think, there's some programs that we have, and we think about this. And my wife comes in, she goes, "Who are you talking to?" And it was Civic Media had called me and said, "Look, we're thinking of starting a radio show. It'll be a year, June 26th.
Okay.
They were,
Congratulations.
Yeah.
we're excited
Amazing,
about
yeah.
it. But they, we're thinking of starting a radio show, and we're looking for someone to host it. And I'm like, all right, well, let me think of some people that could do that. And the
Yeah.
guy's like, I think we want to talk to you.
I
Yeah.
think you could.
But then I read up on him, Civic Media, and it's not a political show. And he said, look, we just want someone who can really talk about the community. But when I read up on them, they're just a little bit more left-leaning than I am as a person. And so
Got
I
it.
went down and interviewed with them in Madison. And I said, look, you guys, I'm a little bit more conservative than what your website and
Sure.
And the guy said, "You think we don't know that?" Which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then they said, okay, and it wasn't talking about an easy interview. It's like, well, you want to do this? And I said, I don't know if I can do this by myself. Actually, my wife said that, Jim, you can't do this by yourself. So I called John Mino. And it was his birthday. Of all days to call him, I called him on March 17th. I said, Johnny, what are you doing now? Nothing, watching basketball. And I'm like, okay. I said, look, I got this opportunity to do a morning radio show. You want to do it? And I don't know John all that well, but he did a lot of fundraisers for me when I was
Sure,
running for
okay.
mayor. He'd get Packers in, and
Yeah.
people would pay, and then he'd ask them questions and host it. And and so we went down to Madison and talked to him, and that was it. So
And here you are.
And the
yeah,
rest
we're
is
kind of
history.
independent. We're not big corporate guys. Like, we don't go to the corporate meetings unless we have to. But yeah, I like it. He's fun to work with. And then so we do that every morning from 6 to 9. And it's very guest driven. We have
love
guests.
Bring a
that.
lot of
Yeah.
local guests.
A lot of
on.
local guests.
Local
That's
entrepreneurs.
amazing.
A lot of entrepreneurs. We bring in people from the Salvation Army, from the homeless shelters. We bring in a lot of community minded people here, and we have towers in Green Bay, Appleton, and Oshkosh. So
Okay.
you could argue 500,000 people
Yeah.
should be listening to us. I don't know how many are. And then on Sundays at 1:00 it's just me, and it's just called Lean Local with Jim Schmitt, and we dig a little bit deeper. Like your show, when you were on our show, it was like 20 minutes, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot more to you than 20 minutes. And
Right.
so my show, we dig pretty deep.
That's amazing.
And it's great. I mean, people are, after you get going with them, they don't mind doing that. You just relax, and we have, we had a great,
conversation.
Right. And that's
Right.
what it is. Because people, I don't know if I can do this. I said, well, I just talked to you for a half hour.
Right.
How was
You did
that?
great,
Right.
yeah.
Well, that's different. I said, no, it's not. It's not. There's just some guy sitting on the other side of the glass.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
Very cool.
I hope, the reason that civic media kind of got us wanted to do this is, there's the media in a lot of communities. I mean, there's no secret that the newspapers are going away, but that local content, I mean, there's a lot of
Makes
stuff on
a
your
difference.
phone, but there's not a great, Gannett is kind of, I mean, the Press Gazette's owned by Gannett, and these TV stations, they only have 7, 8, 12 minutes, right? Then
Yep.
it's sports and then a ton of weather. And so we're just trying to get a little bit more,
I love it.
especially the nonprofits, to get there a little elevated for that. So it's fun. I mean, I love it. And it's a lot more fun. People said, "Did you ever think you'd be mayor?" I'm like, yeah. Did you ever think you'd be own a business? I'm like, yeah. But do you ever think you'd be in radio? No.
That's the one surprise, right?
That is a
Yeah.
surprise. But, so far so good. We like it. So anyway.
That's
Good.
awesome.
Good. Well, we wanted to say thank you for coming.
Oh, this is great.
All that you've done for our community for sure,
Yeah.
and all that you continue to do, but then just having that heart for entrepreneurship and leading the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
I can say that because I'm old. The next generations of entrepreneurs.
And I want to
Yeah.
thank you for being entrepreneurs. You're good examples.
Yeah.
And,
Thank you.
Just need to talk to the community, and they respect the entrepreneurs, and we got to make sure the next generation, like you said, understands that this is a great opportunity. So, and you got to know your industry too, and that's the other thing.
100%.
Very much so.
You can't just do that. But anyway, thanks. I enjoy
thank
it. Let's
you.
get together again sometime.
Yeah, we would
Thanks
love
for
that.
being here.
Thank you so
Cool.
much.
All right.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Well, you can listen to this full episode, as we mentioned, on Apple Podcast and Spotify. It'll be available on our YouTube channel as well. We thank you, Mayor Jim, for being here. And we look forward to having you join us again next time on the Real Chat Podcast. Have a great day.
All
Bye.
right.
Bye.